It's Yudalad El, Tafshin Lamed Aleph, Kisei Tzol Mecham. When you go out to war upon your enemies, and son Havai Lekecha Biyodecha, and Havai Lekecha will place him in your hand, or Biyodcha V'Shavisa Shivya, you will capture his captive. V'Yadua Diyukim Bezeh Ben Farsham Mikra. It's known the analysis of these lashonis, the different tenses, the different forms going from singular to plural and so on in the Mefarshim on the pasuk. The Bedrush Rabbi Seinu and the Mamar Mavarabeim Mao that also speak about it. Mao Oimroi Kiseitzi Lashon Yachid. Why does he say? What's the meaning behind saying you will go out? But it uses the singular form of the word you. It doesn't say Kiteitze U Kiteitze. The that's concerning the enemy. It says oivecha with a yud between the vase and the chav, lashon rabim, which means it's plural, not in the singular form of enemy, which would not have a yud between the vase and the chav. Not that it's a stira, but just an interesting contrast that you are going out. It's the you in the singular. And you're fighting the enemies is the plural. Second question is, also when you understand what it says when you go out to war upon your enemy. So even that whole piece upon your enemy is extra. Why does he even have to tell us that the war is with an enemy? Is enough. When you go out to war, and then what will happen when you go out to war? Why does he have to add upon your enemies? It's obvious. You go to war, you go with your enemies. You don't go to war with your friends. And so in addition to that obvious question, we also have to understand the exact expression that says upon your enemies. He should have seemingly said against your enemies. Also we need to understand what it says at the end of the pasuk, that Havai Lekecha will place him. It says now that he will place him in the singular. Though it's speaking about your enemies in the plural, still no, it says he will place him in the singular. Not he will place them in the plural. And here this is more of a type of contradiction. You're starting off talking about the singular of the enemies, the plural of the enemies, and then Hashem promises to place him, not them, in your hands. We also need to understand what it says. And you will capture his captive. First of all, why does it say you will capture his captive? You can say you will capture people from there. What's the emphasis? Captive. And this itself, it's exact. The examination over here is why I say his captive and not captives. In the like it says in other places, that says that they captured from them the captives. It doesn't say his captives. What's the emphasis over here? That these are captives of your enemies. This will be understood by first prefacing how we can understand this whole idea of the war in the avoid of a person, what type of war a Yid faces in their avoid. Because the Torah is a lesson, a directive in life to every single Yid, every single day. Even when the years are not the way they're supposed to be, meaning, for example, the time when the Beis Hamikdash is not standing. What's the significance of the Beis Hamikdash concerning the war? Because this war that the pasuk is talking about can only be done in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, the physical war. Also in a time where we cannot fulfill the literal commandment in its simple sense of the pasuk when you'll go out to war. How come? Why can't we fulfill it? Because the Torah is talking about an optional war. An optional war means, for example, the king decides that they need to expand the borders of Eretz Yisrael, and then he has an option with the consultation of the Sanhedrin, etc., to declare an optional war on his own. That's what the pasuk is referring to when it says ki seitzi, when you will go out. It's not something that is optional. As opposed to these days, shayach raka in the melchamas mitzvah. It's only applicable to those wars that are considered a mitzvah war. So the Rebbe says, what's a mitzvah war these days? We don't have, let's say, the Canaanim to eradicate. We don't have Amalek to eradicate. What type of mitzvah wars is it referring to over here? That's applicable these days. Who is there to fight a mitzvah war? So the Rebbe says that this includes any type of war that we're saving Jewish people's lives. The Rebbe says that in the term Melchemes Mitzvah, as opposed to Melchemes Reshus, is included any type of war that is to help Yidden from any oppressor that is attacking them. But we cannot do, in the present day and age, an optional war that's to broaden and expand the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael. Explain the Rambam the laws of kings. So even though there is no actual milchemes harishus, which is our parshas talking about at present, so still in all, since Torah is a directive for all time in everyday life and every single person, still in all, this is applicable in the spiritual avodah of a person's soul, the spiritual wars that he goes through. Bottom of the page. The idea behind this is, explain the Torah, the Isa B'Zohar, it's brought down the Zohar. Sha'as Shloisa, Sha'as Krav. The time of davening is the time that is considered a battle. And we see this actually hinted in Chumash already. It's not just a Kabbalah thing that's in the Zohar, but Yaakov Avinu said that that there was a land that I took miyad ha'emoidi, from the hands of the emoidi, b'charbi u'bekashti, by my sword and my bow. Top of the next page, v'tirgum unkelus b'tzloisi b'ba'usi, and the unkelus translates that, what does it mean, b'charbi b'kashti, with my sword and my bow? This was with my davening and with my bakashas, with my requests. So from the fact that the Targum Onkelos feels free to translate b'charbi b'kashti, which is tools of physical war, as a spiritual type of engagement with the enemy through davening. So from this we see that davening and war are really in the same type of occupation. Behind this means that davening is the war with the Yetzer Hara. And this war is daily. Since every single day a person becomes a new creature, he's newly born, so therefore there is a new battle every day. Before davening, a person is called that his neshama, his nefesh elokis, is still in his nostrils. It didn't yet expand in the rest of his body. Like it's brought down in the Gemara, that's what the pasuk says when it says chidlu lachem min hasher neshama ba'apoy. Avoid or hold yourself back, or don't take on the one whose neshama is in his nostril. So it's the Chazal say that's talking about before davening, the neshama is still in the nostrils. Therefore the Chazal said, because we haven't yet davened, the neshama is still in our nostrils, we're not allowed to eat yet. And as we're soon going to explain, the inner reason, because of the nefesh elokis cannot yet handle the food. The body cannot yet handle the food. The spiritual side of the person cannot handle the food. V'hainu, the simple sense is, you didn't speak to the king yet, what right do you have to enjoy your own physical needs? But on a deeper level, what does it mean, the neshama is ba'apoy, when a person is first waking up in the morning. The nefesh elokis is at the time when the person is waking up. It's only in the brain. I guess being in the nostrils means over there in that location, the head still. And it didn't yet expand in the body to influence the rest of the body and to have an effect on the nefesh habahamis and on the body and so on. Only through davening does that take the nefesh elokis and cause it to affect and influence the rest of the body. Then, during davening, it's the auspicious time to be victorious in this war, that the nefesh elokis should be able to expand over the rest of the body and to overcome the nefesh habahamis. Because of that, on a spiritual level, the person is able to deal with the war of eating food, that he doesn't have problems with eating because he doesn't have as much of an interference of the nefesh habahamis, and the nefesh habahamis making this a animalistic type of eating, because he's preceded his eating by davening, which causes that his eating should be in a more spiritual way, in a way that's appropriate for nefesh elokis. Why is davening the shas hakoisha, the auspicious time, the appropriate time for this war? Because during the time of davening, it's the time of revelation of the mature intellect. In Olam Esel Yoinim, the level, what's the difference between a mature person and an immature person? A mature person, for example, an adult, their intellect controls their heart. A child can be very smart, but they are immature and they do not have moyach shalat al lev. The same thing in the Olam Esel Yoinim. There is a time of day that corresponds to the Zman Tefillah over here in our world, that's the time of the revelation of the mature intellect, because that's the revelation above. That enables us at that time to daven. The Zman Tefillah is an auspicious time where we could bring our intellect and the nefesh elokis, which resides in the brain, to influence and have the control of moyach shalat al lev, to be the mature person and to overcome the animal, the nefesh habahamis that's within us. And that is why every single day we need a daven to be able to be victorious in this war that arises every day when the nefesh elokis is first returning to the brain and now needs to manifest itself in the entire body. So now, once we've established what and when the war is, so now we're going to start explaining different parts of the pasuk. Concerning this, it says, second paragraph on the second page, when you go out to war, the emphasis is going out. It's interesting, the Rebbe didn't ask this in one of the questions. Why does it have to say go out to war? When you go to war, what's the emphasis on going out? So similar to where it says Sena, but the Rebbe says Sena. When you go out, it says in Shir HaShirim, V'az, and then Ure'ena, then you will see. What does that mean? What does the going out indicate? To go out of his state and situation, to leave himself from his own measurements and his own boundaries. He's going so far above and beyond himself, to a level it's beyond reason and knowledge. That in general, this is the idea of Shemoneh Esrei davening, bittul shalamayla matam v'das. Shemoneh Esrei is beyond reason and intellect. The level of Kriyat Shema, the level of the Pesukei de Zimra, and so on, all these things have to do with intellect. But the bittul of Shemoneh Esrei is like a servant before his king, and over there, that's lamayla matam v'das. Though the avoid of davening is not only the L'mayla Matan V'das, it's a progression, it's incremental. It has to be like a ladder that's standing on the ground, and the top of the ladder reaches the heavens. Just like Yaakov Avinu saw in his dream. The beginning is from the ground. The Rebbe always brings down from the Frierdiker Rebbe that there is Aretz, the land, and then there's Artza. The extra hay means that it's something lower, it's more intense Eretz. So it's lower than ordinary Eretz. Hini oid bi Yosef b'chinas arza tzorach as le'atoikiv dihine avaya nitzav olav, that while being on the level of the ground, and the real low level of the ground, he has to have the full force of the awareness that avaya is standing over him. He's able to do his avoid on the level of even while it's standing all the way on the ground, because he has this awareness, like it says over there by Yaakov, that behold, he saw Havai Nitzav Olav. So strong does he reach that through this type of strength of awareness that Havai Nitzav Olav, he reaches all the way to the level of Shemaim, just like Arza is lower than Eretz Tam. The same thing, Shemaim with a Hey at the end, is Shalamaylam Shemaim Stam. He can reach even higher than the ordinary level of heavens. So that's what he means. That's the highest level that he reaches, that he's Kiseitze, he's going out, meaning he goes out of himself to reach to the highest levels, to Lamaylam Matam Vadas, which is in the order of davening, it's primarily in Shemoneh Esrei. So now we're going to go back to the first question that we asked about the singular, that it says that when you go out to war, it says you in the singular, because to be able to be victorious in the war, it's only through oneness, unity, and intermingling between Yid. So the Rebbe is going to give a few examples of where davening is connected with that, literally our day-to-day davening. That's why prior to davening, a person has to accept upon himself the mitzvah that you should love your fellow as yourself. Like it's explained in many places, and the Alter Rebbe brings it down in his Siddur. It's appropriate to say before davening, I am taking upon myself the positive mitzvah of Haftarach Kamoicha. So that means this is a prerequisite for davening. It's not like it's explained in other places. It's not just that they wanted that the person should begin his day with Avos Yisrael, but there's a specific connection between davening and Avos Yisrael. That's why it says Nachem Loimar Koydem Atfilah, not Nachem Loimar B'chol Yom B'Boker. It's appropriate to say every day in the morning, but it's particularly a connection and an association and a preparation for davening. And the Rebbe says this in addition to something that we find in davening that shows also our achdus v'iskalus. So he says in the second line from the bottom, V'hainum, in addition to the fact that the davening itself is in such a manner that the person needs to partner himself with the congregation, with the community. Like it's brought down in the Gemara, a person should always join himself with the community, with the congregation. So what does that mean? The Rebbe says in the parentheses, Al Yispal Chulu B'Lashon Yochid. The person should not daven in the singular, Ela B'Lashon Rabim. He should daven in the plural, Shemetoichach Tfilas Nishmas, because out of davening in the plural, so then his davening is accepted and listened to. In other words, do not say Shema Koili, but say Shema Koleinu, and so on. Throughout davening, we daven generally in the plural, where we're davening for Hashem, Rifa'einu, not Rifa'eini, Baruch Aleinu, not Baruch Alai, etc., etc. It's all said in the plural because we are davening for everyone together. And by davening for everyone together, by having the achdus and iskalus in davening, through that, our davening is more likely to be listened to. To such a degree that Hashem does not despise the tefillah of a tzibur, that when a tzibur gets together and davens, a min gets together and davens, that has a lot more power to have its tefillahs fulfilled than a person davening individually. Or like it says, Henkel Kabir V'lo Yimus, behold the Hashem of the mighty, meaning the many, and he will not despise them. So in addition to the fact that during davening, we have the communal part of davening, we say it in a language to include everybody, we daven together with others. So in addition to that, even prior to davening, when you are first going out to war, you haven't yet begun the davening, you are on the way out to war, before the war itself, there is the unity and the intermingling. That's why it says, when you will go out in the singular, not you will go out in the plural. So this is the answer for the first question in the Maimon. By Dezeh, through the Melchama of the Nefesh Elokis, with the Nefesh Abamis being done on a premise based on his achdus and his galus, so then Poyel Nesani Havai Elokecha B'Yadacha, that the effects that Hashem should place him in your hand. Kiliyos Hashro Hashem Havayim Zeu Davke Ayidei his galus, to be able to have the residing and resting of Shem Yud Kei Vavke upon the Yidden, that is only through intermingling, because Shem Yud Kei Vavke is a name that has to do with his scholars. We know that the names of Kael, Elokim, and so on have to do with one particular sphere. Kael has to do with Chesed, Elokim has to do with Gevurah, Adna has to do with Malchus, etc., etc. Every sphere has its own name. Shem Havaya has to do with Tiferes. What's the uniqueness of Tiferes? Tiferes being that it is an intermingling of the spheres of Chesed and Gevurah, and in a more general sense, it is a hinge and something that joins all the spheres, and it's representative of all the midas together. So therefore, over there, where there is unity and intermingling, that's the level of the Shem Havaya, which has to do with Keser and has to do with higher than Seder Ishtalshlos, is able to rest in. So just like in spheres, which sphere is represented by Shem Havaya? That sphere that has the intermingling and joining of the different disparate things, the same thing. Which, how do we bring that Shem Havaya should come down? In our war, that happens through our iskala. So when we have the Hareini Mekabel before davening, and then during davening, we daven in such a way of being including all the Yidden in our davening, we daven together with all the Yidden. So therefore, that Hashem should place him in your hand. That's through being one bond together, one group together. An aguda can mean like a bundle, which means different things are bound together. But even more so, they're called in the singular. That it becomes the Yidden have the level of their being in a way that they're singular. That by Yaakov it says 70 soul in the singular. Shivim Hayalai, he had 70. Nefesh. And the soul, and the pasuk calls it nefesh in the singular. Of the opposite of Esav, Sheshesh Nefashos Hayalai, he had 6 souls, 6 people. Vakasav Kaidos and Nafshas Basin, the pasuk calls them the souls of his household. So what do we see over here? This is the difference between Kedusha and Klippa. Now by Yaakov, it's the level of Kedusha. Even though there were 70, they were in the singular. They were so bound together that they had the complete Achdus in the way of Lashon Yachid, Nefesh. Whereas in Klippa, which is Esav represents, it was in the level of a plurality. So this is the Aguda Achas. This is the level to be able to be successful in the war.